Rabbi Friedman, thank God it's Tuesday. It's amazing. What I just told our audience is we want to speak about something that we started to speak a little bit about last week. What is Jewish pride? What is it based on? Что означает еврейская гордость? Я не знаю, так можно сказать по-русски, but probably not even a great translation. Anyway, so I did a little survey over the week. I spoke to different people. Some of them are people who became observant and asked them what Jewish pride means to them. Some of them are from birth, different ages, different genders, some secular people and some atheists. And I got a very, very different responses from everybody. But the overall response is nobody really thinks about Jewish pride. This is not a topic people actually think about. So when you ask this question, it takes a little time for people to kind of focus on the question. So the question was to the people, what does Jewish pride mean to you, to the particular people, and are you a proud Jew? And here are some answers that I got from two, I would say like about middle-aged ladies who became observant later on in life. One said, for her, Jewish pride is connection and being chosen. And the second one said that it's a sense of purpose and to become a better person. That's the pride. Interestingly enough, the young man who is religious, who was born into a religious family, said that he never thought about Jewish pride, just something he doesn't think about. Now, a Jewish atheist woman said, I don't believe in any kind of pride. It's counterproductive. And then a man who is secular, also about middle age, also said that he never thought about it, but if to think about it, then it's probably would be Torah and our ancestors. And he said it very well in Russian, so I'm going to say it in Russian. Не прогнулись, не продались, не отошли от старых традиций, which in English means didn't bend, didn't sell out, didn't abandon all traditions. And this is a secular man. So I got this kind of a specter of different opinions and feelings about what Jewish pride is. And then, of course, when I went to Google it, nothing. You get everything on Black pride, gay pride. There's Jewish pride, really one article. So, Rabbi Friedman, please take it away. Tell us, what is Jewish pride? Or what it should be, actually.
It's a very good question. And the fact that there isn't a clear answer is a very sad state of affairs. Probably the result of years and years of persecution. We don't even know if we're entitled to have any pride. We're afraid to have pride. Because if we have any pride, somebody's going to come and destroy it, take it away, like they always have. So the fact that there is any pride left is a miracle, truly a miracle. And that's what we should be proud of. We should be proud of the fact that we still have some pride after all that abuse. But 2,000 years of being told that we are wrong, we are bad, we are evil, we're the worst, the lowest. No matter how much you deny it, it kind of, it's got to get through your defenses and it settles into your own heart and mind, and you start to believe it. Some people, some Jews went so far as not only to believe it, but to actually excel in it. Yes, we are the worst. And they become the biggest anti-Semites. Because nobody is as anti-Semitic as a Jewish anti-Semite. But that's the result of all that damage, which is indescribable. It's not believable. It's like a fantasy soap opera but it's true. Yes, we've been through that kind of persecution. We have to heal. Now, it's almost laughable and ridiculous to say, after the Holocaust, which came after 2,000 years of various forms of persecution, it's time to heal. Like, what are you kidding? There's some kind of a cruel joke. There's no healing after that. It's not possible. And yet, the Rebbe, more than any individual, said, okay, time to heal. The pain was real, it was horrible, it was terrible, but now, time to heal. Why? Because all of that was the history of exile. Now we're ready for Geula, for redemption. Mashiach is coming. Time to heal. And of course, nobody believed it. Oh, it's very sweet to say that, but be realistic. We're not healing. Maybe we need to assimilate more. Stop being so Jewish. It's not working. Come on, how many times do you have to be hit over the head before you get it into your head that being Jewish is just not possible? The world won't let you. Give it up. Stop already. What really helped in the healing process was the 6-Day War. You would think the War of Independence, the war in 48, which was against all odds, impossible, just biblical miracles. And yet it didn't do much for Jewish pride all over the world. The 6-Day War, there was something magical about it. Maybe because we had mass communication, everybody could tune in. I remember sitting glued to the radio after the war, listening to the UN debate and how Abba Eban made everybody else sound like school children. He was so good. So what was it about the 6-Day War? I think it was the media. In 48, you heard the news, you didn't hear the news, nobody told you the news, you heard it a month later. But in 67, we were right on top of it. We knew the problem, we knew the danger, we felt it, we felt the miracles, we felt the victory. And all over the world, Jews became healthier. Psychologically, emotionally, mentally, we became healthier. We're not victims. Or we don't have to be victims. It was really a cathartic experience. But all these years later, and we still don't have the pride that we need to have. And that's because what was the pride that we gained from the 6-Day War? We're not sheep that you can lead to slaughter. We have the greatest army. We have the greatest victory in military history. God is on our side. Those were the feelings. The exact opposite of the Holocaust. Because of the Holocaust, I guess God is not on our side. He's on the side of the Germans. God forbid. And no, we are not capable of protecting ourselves and defending ourselves. We did a horrible job. Okay, the Warsaw Ghetto was a good attempt, but it was a disaster. So what happened? Now all of a sudden we are proud of our army. We're proud that we can defend ourselves. We're proud of our country. We're still not proud of being Jewish. So you have all these books about great Jewish personalities in history. And who are they? Great singers, great musicians, great scientists, great writers. What about a great Jew? We don't even know what that means. Great at what? At being Jewish. Well, what's that? That a talent? How much talent does it take to be Jewish? So that last answer that somebody gave you, we have to be proud of our sages, of the Gemara, of the Talmud, of the holy people in our history, of everybody who contributed goodness to the world, and we are way ahead on that count. So we have to be proud of the wisdom of the Torah. There is no wisdom like it. So if you really want to know something and you want to be smart, stop reading the secular books. Those are experimental theories, not true wisdom. Sounds good. It's well said. It's lyrical. But it doesn't compare to the wisdom of our sages. Yeah, 2,000 years ago, our sages understood life today better than we understand it ourselves. Awesome people. Awesome goodness. And what they said about God was accurate. If you can't be proud of that, how many people, how many movements, how many religions speak in the name of God, and they're so ungodly? Has nothing to do with God. When our sages said something about God or in God's name, it was real, it was true, and it still is. So if anybody wants to know about God, there's only one place to go. To the Gemara, the Mishnah, the Zohar, the saints of all the generations. That's what we need to be proud of. Every mitzvah in the Torah is an absolute truth, eternally real and true. It always was true, it always will be true, and there is nothing else in the world like it. So we have to be proud, not of our singers and dancers and actors and musicians, although, they're pretty talented. And also comedians. The Jewish comedians.
Yeah, they're pretty funny.
Oh, yeah. The best of the best. Maybe we even invented humor when the world became humorless. But that's not Jewish pride. That's proud of Jews, not Jewish pride. Jewish pride means it is awesome to be Jewish. Is that racist? Is that arrogance, chauvinism? Maybe. I don't care. I'd rather be a proud chauvinist than an apologetic Jew, right? So fine if it borders on arrogance. So the arrogance of a Jew never hurt anybody. If it's arrogance about being Jewish. Yeah, if you're arrogant about how rich you are, that can hurt people. But if you're arrogant about the Jewishness, it won't do any damage. It'll only make you a better person to everybody else.
Rabbi Friedman, something one of the lectures I listened to on last week's Parsha actually spoke about Jews being both arrogant and humble at the same time. And there was a whole big discussion on that. I will have to listen to it again because it's very deep and it's very hard to understand. Can you explain this concept of how Jews are supposed to be both arrogant and humble, if humble is the right word in this respect?
I can imagine a person who says, America, the United States of America, is the best country that ever existed in all of history. It is the greatest country. It has the greatest freedoms. It has the greatest success. It is the richest. It is the on and on and on and on. Arrogant? Yeah. But then I want to ask this person a personal question. Are you a good American? Not really. Certainly not the best. So you have the arrogance of being an American and the humility of knowing that you're not the best American. We should be very arrogant about being Jews. But you ask the individual Jew, so are you from the better Jews? I don't think so. And that just makes me even more proud to be part of the Jewish people. Because individually, privately, I'm not so impressive. But the people, the nation, the history, the godliness, the relationship with God, oh yeah. Nothing better in the world. Is that arrogance? Not personal arrogance. So you can have both.
Rabbi Friedman, actually, when my son turned 21, somebody gave him a T-shirt. It says, because he came of age, it says, I drink and I know things. I got to tell you, when I was preparing for this show, and I asked myself what I am most proud of about being Jewish, it's definitely is knowledge. The more knowledge I acquire, the more proud I am. However, there is a little bit of a problem. When I start to want to pass this knowledge on, not so much is happening. Either people are not very receptive, or they have some sort of counter argument, or realistically, even a lot of Jewish people just don't want to know. But to me, Judaism is knowledge. It's this amazing knowledge that we cannot get anywhere except from our books, from the Torah, and as you said, Mishnah and Talmud. Why are people not so receptive yet?
There are some who are not receptive. I think the vast majority are receptive. And the ones who are not, it's self-defense. They're afraid to trust. They're afraid to believe. And they're afraid to be proud. That's part of the damage. So they've become cynical. Like one person actually said it out loud. We're talking about the learning, the knowledge, the sages, the wisdom, the writings. So others were saying, it's old-fashioned, it's not so. But this guy said it out straight. He said, and what good did all that knowledge do us? There was a Holocaust. So it's not denying the wisdom, it's a cynicism. Like, what good is being smart? They beat you up anyway. So that's the damage. That's the pain speaking, not the mind. I'll tell you an interesting little story. When they came to arrest the previous Rebbe in Russia, the arresting officers were Jews, two Jewish guys. They were big machers in the Communist Party and the Sektia, And they came to arrest him. So they did a search. They put an armed guard at the door. No one is allowed to leave. Whoever walks in is a prisoner. And they went through the house looking for incriminating evidence. So they went into the Rebbe's daughter's room, and they were tearing everything apart. And the Rebbe was sitting at the table. He was having dinner, and he would not interrupt. Like, you go do what you do. I'm eating dinner. And he hears his daughters arguing with the officials. What kind of life is this? Just because you have a bigger weapon doesn't mean you can abuse people of higher status, of higher standards, of noble living, and you think you can use brute force. So the Rebbe writes, previous Rebbe writes, that he was very proud of his daughter. They were young girls. He was very proud of his daughter, but he said to her, "You are speaking from will, not from intelligence. In other words, you're so desperate to protect me that you think you can reason with these people. But no, you can't reason with them. So your mind knows that this is not going to help, but you want so much to do something, so you're making this argument, but thank you for your effort. It's a waste of time." Sometimes we argue from our head. Logical argument, a reasonable argument, an intelligent, and sometimes the argument is not even coming from your head. It's coming from your pain. So when a person says, the Torah, what makes you think it's any better than any? That's your pain talking, not your brain. There's a difference. Pain is not the same as brain. So just check to see whether it's your brain speaking or it's your pain. And when we hear people say things that are nasty, cynical, a little bit anti-Semitic, it's the pain talking, not the person. So there's no need to get offended or frightened or self-righteous about it. You're hearing the pain. What do you expect?
As I was saying, like there are T-shirts out there like that, the silly ones, I drink and I know things, but, I study Torah and I know things would have been cuter, I think, personally. I would make a T-shirt like that. Maybe it would help out a little bit. Rabbi Friedman, when I was doing this little research about Jewish pride, I came across something very interesting, and I want to put that fact out there. January 6, 2020 was actually a Jewish and proud day in America. I never heard of it. I don't know if you have, but there was actually this one day that was January 6, 2020, Jewish and Proud Day, and 25,000 people marched across Brooklyn Bridge. This was a march against anti-Semitism, and this was organized by the American Jewish Committee, AJC, and they have surveyed Americans who really don't have a bad experience really with anti-Semitism. If Jews had a better life anywhere, they probably had it in America, lately anyway. So, and the surveys showed that 31% of American Jews hide the fact that they are Jewish. So, and this is happening in America where there are no really bad histories for people to be ashamed of their heritage. No one was really prosecuted here like we were in Europe or in Russia or in other places. Why? Why is that so? A third of Jewish Americans hide their identity. Why?
Well, first of all, I want to say that the T-shirt is perfect for your son. I drink and I know things. Only a Russian can say that.
Yeah, his Russian friend gave it to him. But he also studies Torah, and he does know things, and a lot more he knows from studying Torah.
But when an American says, I drink, you don't know how to drink. You don't know what drinking even means. And I know things, not like a Russian. So that's a particularly Russian T-shirt. Should be written in Russian. But all these people in America who are hiding their identities, they're just 2 generations removed from those people in Europe who had very good reason to hide their identities and didn't, which is something to be proud of. I heard this incredibly beautiful incident. During the Gulf War, the United States was sending soldiers into Saudi Arabia and into other Arab countries. They were told that their dog tags that identify them has a letter, one letter printed in the tag that that tells you whether they're Jewish or not. Because in case a soldier gets killed, they have to know where to bury him. So every Jewish soldier had an H printed in his dog tag called Hebrew. That was the code for Jewish. When the soldiers were going off to the Arab countries, they offered an alternative. They made up some other code, I forget what it was, that would identify them as Jewish, but nobody would know. So in case he gets captured by Arabs, they wouldn't torture him, they wouldn't, they would just treat him the way they would any other American. So the chaplain who was giving out these dog tags had a meeting with all the Jewish soldiers and said that there's a box at the door. As you leave, take one of those alternative dog tags and wear it in action. The chaplain was so emotional when he told the story. He said, afterwards, I went and looked at the box. It hadn't been touched. The Jewish soldier said, no. We're Jewish and we're not going to hide it. It was amazingly beautiful. Awesome. I mean, that's real pride. That's putting your life on the line. But that was really something. And it wasn't ancient history. It was pretty recent. So the pain, the damage, the fallout, it's still here. We haven't recovered. What will it take to recover? So the Rebbe made mitzvah projects like tefillin, that Jewish men should put on tefillin. Where? In the street, not in the synagogue. Stop hiding. Let the world see what's Jewish about Jews. It'll heal us, and it will impress the world. That's a huge part of the healing. Giant menorahs. Not a little candle in your window. Giant. Of course, you have to put a candle in your window just to do the mitzvah. But in terms of publicity and public awareness, the bigger the better.
We recently did make the news in a very nice way. As you know, Israeli President Naftali Bennett was in Sochi meeting with Vladimir Putin, and unfortunately he was late for Shabbos, so he had to stay in Sochi. So in a matter of a day, the Chabad of Sochi collaborated with Chabad of Moscow, with Rabbi Ben Lazar, and they put the biggest Shabbat together in Sochi. It was very impressive, very amazing, and it made the news. So this is last Shabbos. This was very impressive, and I have to say, this network of Chabad is amazing, and I witnessed it myself when we were flying from New York to Israel, and the plane. I actually was lucky enough to catch an plane a day earlier, but this was a Thursday plane, and it got stalled, and all of the people flying on El Al, all the very religious family, were going to desecrate Shabbos, and they could not have that at all, and they told the pilot to land immediately. They landed in Greece, and in a matter of an hour and a half, Chabad of Greece was able to house 70 families with tons of children. Obviously, these are religious families. They were picked up and they were driven to different houses that housed them for Shabbat. And that's amazing. That is the kind of community that I think we should be very, very proud of. I don't know if everybody has all this information out there, of how the community works and how amazing it is.
It is absolutely amazing. The Rebbe's disciples, the Rebbe's emissaries, have taken over for the Rebbe in carrying the responsibility for the Jewishness of the world. No shliach is a private citizen and interested only in his own little community, his own congregation or synagogue. The shluchim all over the world collectively are doing what the Rebbe did individually. Take responsibility for Judaism. Doesn't matter what it takes, where, who, you are responsible. That's an amazing thing. And we're talking about ordinary people. We're not talking about heroes. They become heroes in the doing. But when they start, they're just mediocre couples. They become great. But it's not like they're handpicked, because they're the best and the most talented no. They just are willing to take responsibility. So they become the first responders. They get to a disaster before FEMA does. With helicopters, with water supply, with amazing.
It is amazing. And, we're saying why people don't really feel that Jewish pride just yet. But Rabbi Friedman, what would you tell people how to acquire this Jewish pride, where to look, what to do, how to see the world so people stop feeling ashamed of being Jewish? I mean, we went to relative's house and my husband was asked not to pray by the window so the neighbors wouldn't see him putting on, the tefillin and the talis. And I got to tell you, I'm going to come clean. The few years ago, before I started doing this program, I was not an open, out there, observant Jew. Everybody knew me as a different person when I started my career on the Russian radio and the Russian media 20 years ago. I was not an observant person, and things that are coming out now are probably a little weird to many. And it was a little bit scary to speak about this topic, not for someone who's been secular most of my life. So this kind of stuff. I mean, the more I do it, obviously, is the more I love it, and the more I want to talk about it, and hopefully it is accepted in the same fashion. But going to a Jewish family home and being asked not to pray so the neighbors won't see, how do we still react to that?
It is so sad. And what makes it even sadder is that there's some truth to it. There is anti-Semitism in the world. Maybe not as dangerous as it used to be, maybe not as widespread as they make it sound, but there is. There is. So should Jews in France, for example, not wear their kippah in public? Or in England? Or in Germany? Jews are wearing their kippahs. And that's a good part of the pride. The other side of the coin is not really reported very often. The respect that people have for a Jew putting on tefillin or keeping Shabbat, that is much greater and much more popular than the anti-Semitic reactions where they happen, if they happen, whatever. So if we want people to respect our identity, our history, our legacy, and our future, we have to let them see it. Talk about it in public, share it with everybody you know. The history of the Jews, the beautiful, refined appreciation of God's commandments. It's so elegant. It's so impressive, even to people who don't believe in God. I don't know why we would be hiding it. And I don't know what we have to be ashamed of or what we have to apologize for. So a little more healing, and we'll pull off the biggest miracle of all. Healthy, proud Jews just a few days after a Holocaust. They said it can't be done, but we're doing it. We said it can't be done, and we're doing it. That is really, really a sign that there is something to this Jewish thing.
Rabbi Friedman, amazing. As always, very inspirational, very deep, very wise, and something that does give us hope, which is what is most important in our times, to see that we are moving forward, that we are on the right track, and, you know, not just as Jewish people, just as everybody, and everybody is together. And the sooner we can come together on this, I think the sooner we will actually see the real life and the real goodness in the world. So, Rabbi Friedman, I cannot thank you enough for this time that you allocate to our radio, our community, and to everything that you do on daily basis. And this is where I'm going to say thank you very much and say goodbye, and then explain where people can find you and the amazing books that we still have not discussed. Your latest book, which is very, very awesome, and we'll
Do I have a minute to tell a very quick story?
Absolutely. Always.
A bunch of scientists back in the 60s, they got together. They had already landed on the moon. It was time to plan ahead. They wanted to land on a star, on the nearest star, which is about 400 light years away. So how do you do that? You build a little planet, and you put a little community, because one person is not going to live that long. So you have to have a community, and you send them off, and then hundreds of years later, they'll come back and tell us what the star is like. Every kind of scientist was there, because they had to solve all sorts of problems. How to build a community, how to build a planet, how to make it safe, from every angle, they had it covered. And by the end of the week retreat, they decided that it's doable. Except for one thing. How do you convince this community, these people you're going to send out, how are you going to convince them that they're on a mission? The third generation born on this little planet will be convinced that they are the only planet. They are all there is to life. They're not coming from anywhere. They're not going anywhere. And they don't have to report back to anyone at the end of the mission. It's a Bubba. So somebody said, no, we'll keep a log. We'll write a book and we'll put entries. And they said, yeah. And the fourth generation will say, who wrote this gibberish? It's fiction. There's no green planet. There are no blue oceans. This is it. Some guy raised his hand, not Jewish, and he said, I think we're going to have to ask the Jews. It's been 4,000 years. How do they still know they're on a mission? That's something to be proud of.
Amen. 100%. Rabbi Friedman, thank you. And we're going to keep on talking about things that will raise this pride levels in everybody, because it's deserved. It's well earned. So, and thank you very much for doing this always on daily basis to the whole world. Rabbi Friedman, thank you very much. It's always sad for me to say goodbye, but it's only for a week. And we'll continue.
Well, gotta make a living, Can't just sit there and have fun all day. Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Friedman. Thank you. Till next week.